Have you thought about the significant effect that silence can have following rejection? Consider this situation. Despite the devastating blow of your broken expectations, there is a powerful response you haven't fully embraced yet: silence. Today, we explore why accepting silence after rejection can be the most formidable and dignified strategy you possess. You have put your heart into a relationship, always available, always understanding, and prioritizing their needs above your own. You have laughed together, shared secrets, and stood by them during their darkest hours. In this situation, being silent becomes a significant act of self-respect and self-preservation that compels you to consider both yourself and the person who disregarded your worth. This peaceful space allows both parties to contemplate the depth of their actions and inactions. Come learn how to use the Stoic art of silence to turn rejection into a chance for empowerment and personal development. Let's explore how your quiet response to rejection can serve as a powerful declaration of your resilience and a catalyst for change, rather than simply being a state of passive emptiness. Firstly, let's explore the strength inherent in point 1, the power of silence. Have you ever pondered why the other person remembers your silence after rejection so strongly? It's because silence isn't just the absence of sound, it's the presence of control, the essence of resilience, and a testament to your self-worth. This quiet response, despite its passive appearance, has the ability to spark curiosity, provoke thought, and even arouse regret. It's as though your absence plants a seed that only gets louder over time. Imagine this. You've just experienced rejection from someone you deeply care about, and the sting is intense. Your mind is racing with things you want to say, things you want to explain, and questions that beg to be answered. Instead of seeking resolution or begging for comprehension, you choose silence. This silence conveys a powerful message. I respect myself sufficiently to refrain from battling for a position that doesn't fully satisfy me. You step aside not out of pride, but out of self-respect, a self-respect based on Stoic wisdom that teaches us to control what we can and let go of what we can't. Your peaceful retreat, which isn't motivated by resentment, but rather by realizing that your tranquility is not negotiable, may cause her to feel the weight of your absence without you continuously reaching out. She has time to reflect and begins to recognize the emptiness. On the left, behind the lost laughter, there is constant support and in-depth discussions. Imagine a situation when a lady politely distances herself from a man, leaving him with a lot of questions rather than using harsh words. Many males in this circumstance feel obliged to speak up, sending text after text in an attempt to patch things up or explain what's wrong, but a Stoic man moves in a different direction and chooses silence, not as a strategy to win her back, but as a declaration that he doesn't need outside approval to be at peace. Days or weeks go by, and she initially notices the silence, which may provide relief, but it soon transforms into something else: a curiosity, wonder, and a subtle regret. The point is that she may wonder why he isn't reaching out. Silence becomes your shield when you give yourself the time she needs to process and the room to grow in self-respect. Your silence, grounded in strength and respect, begins to express everything you hadn't previously considered. Your mind is your fortress, unaffected by outside events but firm in its own worth. Your silence resonates with her heart more profoundly than any well-crafted message could, so remember this the next time. Your silence isn't about manipulation. Rather, it's about confidence and knowing that even after the pain of rejection, you don't crumble or seek validation. Instead, you stand firm, embodying what it means to be stoic in the face of emotional turbulence. Rejection reminds you that quiet can be a declaration of peace, dignity, and power in such a situation. Not only do you discover who you are, but she can also discover a greater understanding of your value, which is the second shockwave of your two. The astonishing effect of your silence. She may initially seem unaffected by her absence. Her social media is filled with joyful pictures, tales of weekend trips, and casual check-ins at hip locations. However, keep in mind that appearances are frequently merely surface-level performances. Underneath her composed exterior, something much deeper starts to take place. Your sudden and intentional silence is not just an absence, it is a presence in itself, resonating louder than any outburst could ever imagine. In this way, she goes about her day instinctively, anticipating. She initially dismisses it with a lack of concern, telling herself that it's not a big deal, but as the days stretch into weeks, the void you've left behind becomes an inevitable reality. It's your message ping, a notification that you've reached out, but it doesn't happen today, tomorrow, or the day after. Take a minute to consider this from a Stoic standpoint. Your silence turns into a mirror, making her see the space you once occupied. It is in that stillness that your actual power starts to emerge. Marcus Aurelius sagely observed that you control your thoughts, not external circumstances. So silence is more than just the absence of noise. It is an act of self-preservation and an affirmation of your worth. Understand this, and you will discover strength in choosing to be silent. You embody this strength by resisting the need to respond in order to get approval or to correct something that isn't yours. Instead, choosing to follow the road of inner peace, a choice that is based on your self-worth. She may be sitting by herself in a coffee shop, staring at the door, as though you were about to enter, or she may be mindlessly scrolling through old messages when she notices that your voice is no longer a part of her everyday background music. Your absence serves as more than just a blank space. It serves as a powerful reminder of what she has lost. It becomes evident that you didn't disappear out of rage or spite, but rather as a declaration of self-respect, and it is in this space that she realizes the seriousness of your absence. The realization hits her suddenly like a wave that drags her under before she even knows she's in the deep. She starts to understand that your silence was never about playing games, but rather a decision you made to honor yourself and move forward without holding on to what isn't serving you. As you process this message, you realize that your silence holds far more power than any words you could have spoken. It is a declaration of resilience, emotional discipline, and a deep-seated confidence that asserts, I value myself too much to chase after what doesn't value me. I ask that you take some time to think. Take a deep breath, close your eyes, and then type this brief affirmation. As you consider the strength that comes from choosing to remain silent in the face of rejection number 3, the mask of 3, let this affirmation resonate within you. My silence speaks volumes. Accept the weight of those words, understanding that your absence is not just a void, but a powerful assertion of your value and self-respect. The pretended mask. Pretended to be calm. It's fascinating, isn't it, how someone can project an air of invincibility when silence becomes a force stronger than words. She enters the world with a casual demeanor, seemingly declaring triumph over vulnerability. After experiencing rejection, she'll share glowing pictures of herself with pals. You'd think she'd moved on and had a great life, but if you look closely, you'll see that this is a performance. Kerr shares pictures of her latest adventures on her feed, interspersing them with captions that celebrate her independence and joy. When she laughs in public, it's louder and more emphasized, as if laughter itself can drown out the echo of the silence between you. Every post and every smile are part of an intricate play, a portrayal meant to assert I am unbothered. However, masks, no matter how skillfully crafted, are just covers that conceal the deeper truth. Imagine a moment after one of her most vibrant updates, when she's alone. She dons a defiant mask, aiming to persuade both you and herself that your silence holds no significance. Your stillness becomes more audible and tangible during those moments when the laughter stops, the crowd disperses, and the world becomes quieter. That stillness demonstrates the true value of Stoicism, imparting the skill of maintaining composure and recognizing your control over your own reactions, not hers. The purpose of your quiet is not to do harm. Rather, it is a statement of self-respect and an exercise in realizing that peace comes from letting go of things beyond your control. You look calm and detached, but when you encounter unbroken stillness, the mask breaks and cracks appear behind every shared laugh and every minute she fills with noise. There's a pause where the mind returns to the unavoidable silence. Your absence changes from being a blank space to a mirror reflecting her own uncertainties, regrets, and emotions that she may have attempted to suppress. What does that silence say? It establishes boundaries. It states that you won't pursue her or play a supporting role in her story of apparent triumph. The Stoic wisdom here is to realize that silence isn't just the absence of noise. It's a profound statement of knowing your worth. Imagine her scrolling through her own photos, realizing that while the world may believe the mask, the silence within her is doing more than just remaining silent. It's reshaping her narrative, and that's when the real battle begins within her. Stoicism teaches that emotions may fluctuate, but what truly matters is your response to them. Your silence then becomes an emblem of self-mastery, an echo of your unwavering decision to keep your peace. So, yes, she may try to project a life untouched by your silence, but as days turn into weeks, the reality of that silence grows heavier. It's worth noting that the onset of remorse in the fourth step requires time and genuine contemplation. 4. The onset of regret is subtle, beginning as a whisper in the darkness that is hardly perceptible at first. She ignores it as a fleeting thought, overwhelmed by the sounds of her day, the company of her friends, and the diversions she desperately seeks. But when the world quiets down, leaving her alone with her own thoughts, that whisper becomes a loud voice. Imagine her, late at night, scrolling through her phone, trying to fill the void with countless pictures and stories that don't involve you, only to find an old photo and a memory that refuses to fade. She hesitates for a moment, staring at the picture longer than she intends to, feeling that familiar pang of something lost. It's not just nostalgia. It's the realization that the moments she once overlooked were treasures she failed to appreciate, and suddenly the laughter and conversations she surrounded herself with during the day seem hollow. Echo your absence. The silence you've chosen is no longer just an empty space. It's an unquestionable reminder of the decision she made. The sorrow has turned into a weight that presses against her chest, making every breath feel more difficult. We learn from Stoic wisdom that sometimes words are less effective than silence. Marcus Aurelius famously remarked that a man should not fear death, but rather never begin to live. Your silence is evidence of this. It is the mark of living with intention, knowing your worth, and refusing to fill the void with meaningless noise. When you withdraw your presence, not out of manipulation or anger, but out of self-respect and the pursuit of peace, it becomes a mirror that forces others to see themselves for who they truly are. In your absence, she starts to relive the small, seemingly insignificant moments, the way you'd listen intently without breaking the look in your eyes when she needed reassurance, the subtle ways you'd show up even when she wasn't aware of it. Those once routine moments are now playing repeatedly in her head, like a song she can't stop listening to. Your silence, which was previously just a blank space, now feels like an unspoken truth, reminding her that you respected yourself enough to step back. Remorse is more than just an emotion. It's a realization that unexpectedly hits her. Stoicism teaches us to find strength in silence, even when it would be easy to speak or react. Your silence conveys a powerful message and shows that you are not reliant on her approval or recognition. It's the kind of silence that says, "I care deeply, but I care for my peace more." It's powerful because it is genuine and not performative. It's a declaration of your inner strength. Days turn into weeks, and that silence lingers and becomes a presence in itself, challenging her to face the reality she tried to ignore. Your absence reminds her of what she once took for granted, the steady anchor you provided, and she begins to question everything. Was I mistaken? Did I let my pride get in the way? Why didn't I see this coming? When regret strikes her, remember that your quiet strength as well as your lack of voice haunt her. The silence begins to weigh on her, not because it's empty, but because it contains the reality she's avoiding. It serves as a mirror, illuminating the full cost of her decision. As she struggles with this understanding, you remain steadfast and unflinching, representing the Stoic adage that he who is brave is free. In your silence, you found freedom, which leaves the greatest impression. Mark. If you find that this message speaks to you, I urge you to type "Silence reveals truth" to affirm its power. This will help you acknowledge your impact and inspire others to value silence and self-respect. Let's embrace this truth together as number 5 attempts to replace number 5. Attempts to substitute. It's a common scene, you know. While she is out with her friends, a new person joins in, leading to an increase in the volume of laughter. On the surface, smiles that appear brighter indicate that she has moved on. But here's the thing. When someone tries to fill the void you left with someone else, it's not a sign of healing. Rather, it's an attempt to hide the discomfort that silence has caused. They're trying to hide their emptiness by convincing themselves and maybe you that they're unaffected. What looks like confidence is frequently a thin veneer hiding something deeper. Consider applying a temporary dressing to a cut that is much deeper. Genuine friendships are difficult to recreate. The comfort you provided and the understanding you demonstrated transcended mere words. As Epicus once stated, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Someone new may attempt to replicate the warmth you brought into their lives in an attempt to gain validation from passing attention or surface-level flattery, but it won't take long for reality to set in. When they search for what you once gave so easily, it becomes clear that those connections were rare, special, and unreplicable. May elicit a range of feelings, whether it's irritation, humor, or even a hint of melancholy. Remember that their attempts to distract themselves are a reflection of their inability to sit with the stillness and face what it exposes, not of you. Imagine her in the center of a crowded gathering full of discussion and laughing. The new person by her side might offer a little diversion, but it's only so brief since the mind has a way of returning to the important things in between the forced giggles and casual looks. He doesn't listen in the same way, and at first it doesn't feel as comfortable. However, over time, it becomes increasingly difficult to ignore your absence, as your absence is felt. There's an unmistakable pause, a flash of realization that no one fully occupies the space in which you made the comparisons. Even though she might try to move on with someone else, your silence serves as a powerful statement that affirms your worth and your determination to stay in this quiet space. Rather than proving anything to her, you're proving to yourself that others' decisions don't define you. Stoicism empowers you to recognize that true strength lies in not seeking validation from those who fail to see your value. Instead, You remain centered, grounded in the knowledge that your worth is unshaken by external actions. The new person in her life may be attentive, charming, and even exciting, but relationships built on the need to escape discomfort rarely stand the test of time. When the initial spark fades and the silence creeps back in, she'll begin to see that it wasn't about you being perfect. It was about you being authentic, reliable, and genuine. Those are qualities that can't be replaced on a whim or replicated in a rush, and as much as she may try to convince herself otherwise, the truth will seep in during the quiet moments. She let go of something rare, so when they attempt to replace you, remember that it's not about what they project to the world. It's about what they feel in the stillness when no one is watching. Your silence, rooted in Stoic wisdom, becomes a testament to your self-respect and the reality that true value is not easily replaced. In the end, it's your quiet confidence that will echo in their mind long after the distractions fade, as we reflect on the intricate dynamics of relationships and the silent struggles that often accompany rejection. I would like to know your thoughts on this. Have you ever been in a similar situation where you saw someone try to replace you? What feelings did it evoke in you? Please take a moment to share your experience in the comments section. Your insights are insightful, and I look forward to hearing your point of view on number 6, facing the silent. Looking toward the quiet empty. There comes a time when everyone stops talking and friends start laughing. The numerous messages on her phone and the buzz of new contacts fall into place. In that stillness, something deep and unsettling comes to light. Quiet gap is the area that you used to occupy, and regardless of how, despite her best efforts to suppress it, she has recollections of what once, and as time goes on, that emptiness simply grows deeper, becoming an unavoidable aspect of. At this moment in her day, your silence takes on a strength that words can never match. The distractions initially subdued the nightly talk. It seemed sufficient to see faces that were just different enough to feel fresh. Ignore the pain, but Stoicism emphasizes where real growth and strength originate. Here, she confronts the discomfort instead of avoiding it. Falters, stuck in a world where your quiet serves as a constant reminder of when she realizes what she has lost. It's not just silence, it's a crushing weight. She can't control your absence, which is the one thing that counts most right now. Think about this as she spends her day with individuals that don't really. There is a persistent feeling of loss when you get to know her the way you did, the new relationships and the fleeting talks. They all seem superficial and lack the depth she used to find so easily in. You realize this is about more than friendship. It's about the quality of the connection. The emptiness is not only quiet, but also reverberates with she starts special moments that no one else can duplicate. Realize that who you were, not just what you did, made those moments possible. The unique Stoic insight here is that real transformation occurs when we confront what we've been avoiding you. Yet your silence makes her face that awkward. Her realization of the cost emerges from her late-night musings when everything else has ceased. Because of her decision, your silence serves as a mirror for her, reflecting back not just the emptiness, but also the reflected light of your absence, yet she might attempt to resist because it is so important. These emotions let her justify them or convince herself that she's doing better, but deep. The tale of Down the Silent Void is one of squandered opportunities. The possibilities of a lost relationship were more important than she ever acknowledged, and your silence forces her to face them. This head-on starts to alter her perception of herself and what she allows. The strength of Stoicism slips through her fingertips in this wordless conflict. Instead of using grandiose gestures, silent, steady commitment displays its actual nature. You're content with your life, knowing that you're valuable, and you're not contacting people or waiting by the phone. She remains unaffected by the approval of others, and this is what truly destroys her. This stands in stark contrast to the temporary fixes she's been seeking. She has been trying to fill the silence with brief moments, but you have been growing stronger there. As she confronts this quiet emptiness, remember that it's not just yours. The irreplaceable value of what she lost in her absence weighs heavily on her. Your quiet nature, rooted in Stoic ideals and self-respect, is truly remarkable. Evidence of your inner fortitude, and as the stillness continues, she starts to understand that some losses are daily experiences rather than just feelings. There are moments when you recognize that your silence speaks louder than words. She didn't know how much you were, and now it's a reality. Reality, she is unable to overlook number 7 at the time of 7. The turning point. Realizing that there is initially a little uneasiness that gradually increases, but there comes the moment of reckoning arrives when ignoring it is no longer an option. She must decide whether to embrace the reality and learn from it, or allow regret and denial to take hold and spread like a vine, limiting her progress for a brief period of time. That distinguishes ates from people who are unable to change due to their own decisions. Consider her on the periphery of this cliff, the quiet reverberating in her head more loudly than any dispute ever. Could your unflinching, stoic quiet serve as the catalyst for this? Confrontation is a sign of genuine respect and self-respect rather than a quiet form of resentment, recognizing that you only owe what you have already provided. This insight is the storm that unexpectedly rocks her foundation. We must determine whether she has the courage to confront what she has done, or whether she will. She built walls of justifications to shield herself from the suffering that Stoicism teaches us. These kinds of times are essential for development, and your silence reflects this reality. Let her know that while even though she can't change what has already happened, she has the power to change how she feels. However, not everyone is ready to confront this level of reality. The mirror you're hiding behind is too difficult to look at, too honest, and too stark. Without breaking, imagine her in a peaceful space with the remains of unanswered distracting messages, an unfinished drink, and a show on TV. Although there is a lot of noise around her, it doesn't actually drown her out. Her mind was racing with regretful, piercing, and uncompromising whispers. What if? Memories of your tolerance, encouragement, and trust, all of which you so readily abandoned, resurface with demands. The decision to either face these emotions head-on or bury them beneath layers is the crux of the reckoning. Of denial, those with the courage to enter the suffering they will. Allowing themselves to experience the pain of regret, they traced the history of their choices. Where did things go wrong, and why did I ask myself the difficult questions? This is a genuine space. What could I have done differently? Change can begin when the silence you maintain becomes the seed of their growth. Their development compels individuals to view their shortcomings not as causes for guilt, but as. There are opportunities for change, but some people will choose the simpler route. Filled with excuses and guilt, they will tell themselves tales to numb the pain. It wasn't meant to be. Either they were too much, or I needed something profound yet distinct. The longer they remain, the more they realize that these are really a front for the truth. In denial, the more tightly regrets cling, the more pressure public relations exerts until they shift. It seems impossible to move on, and your quiet then changes from serving as both a brief pain and a lasting reminder that they allowed something to. For her, the moment of reckoning is an opportunity to learn how to. If she decides to pursue growth, she should humble herself and observe her areas of weakness. Her transformation begins with silence, which serves as a reminder that what you provided wasn't typical, and it's better to learn this now. Regret is felt by those who succumb to denial, yet it's preferable to remain unaware of it altogether. The character becomes their friend and reappears during whispers in the still moments. If they encounter unexpected moments and remain unaffected, they may divert their attention. Despite the change in people and habits, the impact of your absence will still be felt. It is a natural result of ignoring the truth, not a punishment. You remain unwavering, embodying the Stoic ideal of resilience, and your quiet is a sign of your self-respect and not a means of manipulation. Power and knowing you can't force someone to see something they don't want. Growth comes from the space that enables someone to realize the truth for themselves, not by begging or explaining themselves. As number 8, will they make contact or continue on? The silence has continued to grow. 8. Will they make contact or go away? As the days go by, she feels a power of its own weighing on her thoughts. Will the weight force her to reach out at a critical juncture of insight and the wish to repair what's damaged, or will she try to proceed with the understanding of what she lost, like an unseen scar? This is the moment when I finally realize how much losing you has affected me. The crux of the matter lies in her current struggles, not in her decision to return. Given the fact that her decisions had unavoidable repercussions, simple words or actions could ignore or reverse her reach. Test the waters cautiously to determine if the door is still open, but this is when the change in viewpoint happens. It's not about her return vindicating you. Rather, it's about realizing that her contacting you is a reaction to your fortitude, your quiet, and you refuse to give up your tranquility, whether she acknowledges it or not, sensed the emptiness you left behind, and it has altered her self-perception and morals. But for you, this moment is about seeing the issue clearly, not seeking approval. Imagine what it's like to be blinded by hope. Now, consider the instead. She chooses not to contact him, convincing herself that moving on is the best course of action, taking the easiest route. Perhaps she tells herself that too much time has gone by, or, knowing she would become vulnerable if she reached out, the understanding is still brewing beneath the surface. On the surface, it's the understanding that decisions have consequences that make quiet was actually the loudest response of all for her, even if they had previously dismissed it. Whether or not she reaches out, the lesson is that obvious behaviors have repercussions, and the absence of a sincere person cannot be readily replaced or disregarded. This, while initially unsettling, quickly reveals its purpose. It serves as a space where introspection flourishes and the consequences of her decisions are felt. If she does, it could be with a newfound understanding and humility, whatever was previously missing. Yet even in that case, opening the door without, I believe it's about determining whether their acceptance of the past is accompanied by genuine growth rather than merely a fear of being. Be alone and understand that your silence will have consequences if she decides not to contact you again, has given you the chance to reclaim control and appreciate the situation. When you understand that staying silent is not passive at all, but rather an active choice, you can find inner peace. Active choice. Declare that your value is independent of other people's acknowledgement or remorse. This is the silent triumph that Stoicism imparts to the ability to remain rooted in the present and not be influenced by what might be. Therefore, whether they make contact or remain silent, the outcome is the same. You are no longer in control. Waiting no longer defines you since you have already gone on. In the most significant manner possible, find tranquility in the quiet places. Your way to freedom is your own number 9, and your importance is unquestionable. 9. Using silence to find your freedom. Through stillness, as time passes, you begin to realize its actual intent. Waiting for them to return or having them feel the consequences of your absence was never the main goal. What restores your freedom is what makes it truly a victory. It is a profound realization that you don't need the approval or attention of others. Acceptance to feel complete is the type of freedom that ingrains itself deeply. We are reminding you that you have always been valuable. Hold on, consider how you got here. At first, the quiet might have seemed like a penalty or an empty space, a place full of inquiries and unrest. But as time went on, you saw something changing. You now have clarity where there was previously confusion, and strength where you once felt weak. Independence where you previously relied on the presence of others on your voyage. It was always about regaining what they had lost, not just helping them understand it. Your strength lies in realizing that your tranquility is independent of others. Imagine getting out of bed in the morning without checking your phone for a response. Imagine how much easier it would be to go about your day knowing that your happiness is not dependent on a notification or a fleeting encounter. Rather, it is the result of your quiet is the prize for remaining steadfast and making the decision. Sometimes it would have been simpler to reach out and find solace in words that would have caused more doubt. The timeless wisdom of closure Stoicism reminds us that our happiness. Marcus Aurelius wrote that one should not be dependent on outside factors. Little is required to create a joyful existence. It comes from within you in your own way. Reflecting on stillness has helped you reconnect with this truth, and you've discovered that your happiness and contentment and self-esteem are all things that may thrive without outside. In fact, when you cultivate them from the inside out, they develop stronger. The areas where you can rest and recollect in silence. Now consider the strength you've discovered that simply having the courage to remain silent isn't enough. You also need to have the courage to understand that moving forward doesn't request an apology, engage in a conversation, or acknowledge a hypothetical scenario that requires acceptance. Life continues regardless of whether others value you or not. That acceptance, which enables you to let go without holding on, is your ultimate freedom. Your stillness has given you a cutting clarity despite your bitterness. You have witnessed this through the clamor of second-guessing and over-analyzing. It's not malicious, but sometimes the best course of action is to remain silent. You've shown yourself that your universe doesn't end out of self-respect. Because someone chose to leave it, it grows, creating space for development, new encounters, and the understanding that you are sufficient just the way you, the sole worthwhile objective in life, according to the Epictetus, is freedom. By remaining silent about things that are out of our control, you've gained the freedom to quit waiting for solutions that might never arrive. And by doing this, you have taken charge of the story you have decided to write. Your story serves as evidence of, rather than a response to, someone else's decisions. Your fortitude and determination, along with your newly acquired skills, are commendable. Remember that your sense of freedom symbolizes your strength and capacity for wholeness. The silence that once seemed intimidating has become yours, and you are now autonomous and at ease. This serves as a reminder that you can overcome any obstacle and emerge stronger. Someone should come back and validate your worth. You've already found it within yourself, so don't. As a gap that needs to be filled, it also serves as a reminder of the path you've already taken. You've demonstrated to yourself that freedom comes from something other than someone's return. Deciding to proceed fully and unhindered, with your head held high and you're unfazed, this is your triumph. This is your liberty. Now, I'd like you to please take a moment to reflect and share with us what freedom means to you. If you're feeling motivated, I embrace my freedom within the framework of your connections. Comments should validate your inner strength. Your observations may strike a chord with people who are pursuing their own goals of independence, and let's establish an environment where we may support and encourage one another in our self-discovery. As we've discussed today, on journeys, silence is more than just a lack of sound. It's a final results emotional reaction that has a strong resonance in the areas that rejection has left behind. It is an art of the Stoics, a method of maintaining one's dignity and a means of developing oneself. You take part in an introspective journey via stillness, reinforcing it's about transcending suffering. It's about self-worth and giving others room to consider the implications of their choices. Become empowered about changing dynamics, not by making bold claims, but by the silent declaration of your own worth. In this piece is something that each of us can discover. Clarity and strength. As we've talked about dust, quiet forces reflection rather than not only in ourselves, but also in people who may have undervalued us. Over time, a small yet powerful reminder of perseverance and self-worth becomes audible, louder than any confrontational or recognition-seeking statements. So as we come to a close, consider, how can you apply the magnificent art of silence to your own life? Taking a step back gives you a better understanding of how your quiet reaction to rejection could change your. If you value relationships and inner tranquility, please consider liking this video. I found it to be informative, and please share your thoughts in the comments section below. What about the power of silence most appeals to you? Have there ever been moments when silence has been your favorite? For the best response, remember to watch the recommended films on the screen. Improved understanding of spiritual principles and personal development techniques. Use these suggestions to subscribe to more videos similar to this one, and share this one with someone who might find it useful. Let's keep exploring the application of traditional knowledge to modern problems.